I didn't consider your feelings as much, and I'm sorry.
They broke up. Cute right now.
I'm like, life for me was sad.
You bitch, it was sad.
Ramble.
Pretty basic.
Thank you to Grammarly for sponsoring this episode of Pretty Basic.
Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Pretty Basic Podcast. I am Remi Ashton Cruz.
I am Alisha McDonald. So many people think Marie is my last name. I've never met someone with the last name Marie. I'm not saying that no one has that last name.
I was going to say, who thinks that's your last name?
A lot of people, they're like, how are you and Ashley related if you have different last names? I'm like, Ashley Nicole and Alisha Marie. I'm like, interesting.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And a lot of people ask, why didn't you go with like Alisha McDonald? I don't know what it is. It just doesn't sound as good.
I will say at the time when we created our YouTube channel, it was like the big thing was to do your first and middle name.
Oh, it was like you don't say what your last name was.
I mean, I'm Miss Remi Ashton because my mom wouldn't let me put my last name on the internet.
Really?
Yeah. Miss Remi Cruz. Like, Remi Cruz is a better ring than Remi Ashton, I think.
I think I would agree with that.
Right? Miss Remi Cruz.
Miss Remi Cruz.
I always get asked too if
but
and
like
when
Miss
I get.
Remi Ashton Miss Remi Ashton I think sounds better than Miss Remi Cruz.
You think so?
Yes. But Remi Cruz sounds better than Remi Ashton.
Yes. Okay, I agree with that.
Do you know what I mean?
But I will say I get asked two things. I get asked a lot. When I get married, will I become Mrs. Remi Ashton? Which I think that's so funny. So I absolutely will. Second of all, fun fact, and you know this, and you always give me an opinion on it. Initially, my vlog channel is called Rem Life. And
Yes.
I was going to be more Miss Remi, which I think is so funny.
Yeah.
You always say you hate more Miss Remi.
Yeah.
Only reason
Rem Life is iconic.
Rem Life is so funny, but
Rem Life?
The reason why I didn't do more Miss Remi was I made the account and then I misspelled it and I was like, this is a sign that I should just not do this. And so I came up with Rem Life.
Do you know what my vlog channel was called before Alisha Marie Vlogs?
Vlog Baby 11,
yeah,
obviously. But I like that it went like
Mac
with
Baby
each other.
11.
I love that.
I remember making my vlog channel, which is so funny now looking back to that moment and seeing what it is now. I remember making it, and again, just like with Mac Baby 11, I was like, this is it. Vlog Baby. I will never regret this.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, I regretted
can't believe
it.
You regretted it.
Well, but then I changed it.
But
you know?
Mac Baby 11 is iconic.
Mac BBY.
I love talking about old school YouTube. I really do so much.
I just put on my TikTok, which if you guys are listening and watching and you want to follow me on TikTok and Remi.
Thank you.
But you're destined to be TikTok famous, so I really got to plug myself.
I appreciate that.
I
But yes, plug yourself. Tell them what your TikTok name is.
Alisha Marie.
Yes. Everybody follow.
Go follow. My goal is to get to 1 million followers. No. But what I posted a video being like, hey, I've been doing this for so long, like send questions that you have because I want to help other creators. And I'm really excited to kind of dive into that because we always talk about wanting to do more business stuff. But I love reminiscing on the old YouTube days. Like, I'm so grateful that we started then. Because
I'm so grateful we started then because I would not be here.
We wouldn't.
If I did it now, there's no way in hell I'd have the following I have now.
No. And like, I think we got to enjoy. I think now there's so many creators, which I'm happy to help and I'm excited to start doing that series. But I think there's so many people who like are getting burnt out so quick, so fast. I'm like, damn, like they've only been doing it in 6 months. And then there's so much pressure to make it a full-time thing. Like we were just fucking dicking around, making videos in our room, being like, hee.
On our, like literally I would film on my MacBook.
Yeah. And then it turned into what it was. So I don't know. It's very, like I have a lot of empathy for a lot of creators starting out now because they're like, I'm trying to make it, but we didn't try to make it. It just happened naturally. So it's very interesting.
I think it's so interesting. So I have a masseuse. Her name is Nara. She's so cute.
That's such a pretty name.
She's so beautiful. She's from Thailand. And so she messaged me the other day because she didn't know what I did because like I don't talk about it. What am I going to tell her during my massage?
Walking into your house, anyone would be like, what does this chick do?
I feel like she never asked because she's very professional. But she's so cute. I got a text from her the other day and she's like, Miss Remi, you're famous. And she got like a sponsored ad on her Instagram of me. So when she came over yesterday, she's like, so what do you do? And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been doing YouTube for like a decade.
Damn.
And we were talking all about that. And she was like saying how, everyone's doing it now and how it's so crazy that like almost everyone's an influencer. And I was like, I know, it's so funny because back in the day, like my high school best friends would like make fun of me for doing it. And now there's so many people from my high school that are making videos.
Yeah, it's
and
so normal.
I know, it's so crazy. I'm like, I appreciate that I was truly like, I think one of the only people in my high school who were making YouTube videos because it was like uncool. And also like not that many people knew about it at the time.
Yeah.
I feel like, whereas now everybody knows about it. So I'm so grateful for that time because it did feel so special and like near and dear to my heart. But it also was hard when people would make fun of you for it. Now no one makes fun of people for it because everyone's doing it. So we wanted to have this conversation last week, but then all we did was talk about how much we love Anderson .Paak, which absolutely no regrets.
No, that was a fire episode.
I will say this episode has not gone out yet, so whether or not Anderson has seen it,
well,
we're
TBD.
not sure.
TBD. Don't worry, guys.
I did go home and spiral thinking that he's never going to want to be my friend because I went a little too hard in the sauce.
What do you mean?
No regrets. I still think he is incredible, still open for friendship.
No, we got to put it out there. We got to be confident. He's going to be like, wow, you need to come to my next show. We got to manifest that. So last week we were gonna actually record this episode about help. My best friend got a boyfriend. This has been very highly anticipated, also requested. A lot of people, I think people were expecting us to do this episode before we were even thinking. Like, I think a lot of people have been like, why haven't they done this episode?
I was going to say, big elephant in the room here.
Yeah, I didn't really notice.
I didn't think to ever make this an episode, but why have we not?
No, and this is such a good episode for us to make because obviously we were conjoined at the hip for a solid 2 years.
Yeah. Conjoined. 2
years. I mean, we went to Bora Bora together. We've been on many trips.
We were actually inseparable.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like it's almost one of those things. I don't know about you. I don't want to speak for you, but it's one of those things where obviously our relationship changed and it kind of changed publicly because we do this so often, obviously. But it was never something that I gave a lot of thought to. So the idea of this episode made me kind of think about it more.
Yes.
So, okay, I'm glad we're in the same boat.
Yes.
So I think it'll be a good conversation to have. And so, again, obviously, this is inevitable. When your best friend gets a boyfriend, someone's most likely you're not going to get it at the same time, same day.
Yes.
So your relationship's going to change and inevitably you got to deal with that.
Also, I think a lot of friendships have falling outs for this reason, whether they like the boyfriend or they don't like the boy. Like there's so many different factors and stuff. So obviously this is very much just our own experience with Remi having a boyfriend and me not having a boyfriend. Like it's very specific to our friendship and your relationship with Cal. Obviously, like we have other friends with other boyfriends and it could be a completely different thing. Even like Ashley having a boyfriend more recently, like that's a completely different relationship. So I don't want to speak for everyone in this case.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I kind of, we're gonna go in. We had some help from our producer write up some questions that are very specific, very open and honest, and we are going to dive into them and just ask each other honestly, like kind of how it was for the other person, because we've never really talked about this. I was just gonna say we never talk about it. We've never talked about it this way, or things that I don't know. I was kind of trying to prep for this episode a little bit because we know I love an outline. I love prepping. I love pre-meditating on my thoughts that I'm gonna share with the class.
Okay. We love that. An insightful, thoughtful, wise queen.
I do, because I'm like, why did I not reach out? Why did I have to really sit and think about it?
I will say, I mean, it took us through Cal and I are hitting 3 years in exactly 2 months.
Know.
It took us 3 years to make this episode, 2.5 of which have been in a pandemic. So that obviously altered a lot of things. But again, we never talked about it.
I know.
And so this is going to be fun or scary, but also fun.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Right? Okay, so first we're going to start with a few pre-relationship questions for each other, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Should we just bounce back and forth maybe with these questions?
Yeah, I think let's take turns.
Okay, first up, how frequently did you hang out before?
Oh, I mean, literally almost every day.
Inseparable.
It would be weird. If I didn't see you for 3 days, I'd be like, well, I'm not going to see you till Monday.
I remember there were times where you would leave my apartment, which also I think that's a huge, I don't know, just a huge reason as to why we're so close was I lived on my own and you lived obviously with Ash in the house and Taryn in the house. And I feel like you wanted a bit of an escape.
Yes.
And you love downtown, coming to downtown.
Oh yeah.
We were just we took on the city together and it was a really, really fun experience and such like core memories that I look back so fondly on. But I remember there'd be times where you would leave my apartment to go back to your house and you would like go home to get like something and come right back. Like,
I'd be like, okay, I'm going to go do this.
20 minutes, 2 hours, like maybe max. Like we were absolutely inseparable. And maybe to the point where like it was a little worrisome, but we didn't care.
I think we just both like, I don't know, like other friends understand like when there's just like that very transformative time in your life, we were both going through it at the same time. So, and we were doing like a workout class every single day. Like we'd go hiking, we'd go to Soul Cycle, we would do something like that. Then there would be events on top of that. Then we would maybe film a video together. This was before the podcast, so we didn't really do the podcast as much. Actually, no, we still had the podcast for like the whole second year.
Yeah. I think we were just really close.
Yeah, and then we would go out on the weekends, be drunk and hungover the next day. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm leaving. Like we were hanging out a lot.
We had very also just like similar interests. I mean, we still do.
But it used to be more.
Under the circumstances and then with life and everything, like we would do the same events. We'd go to the same premieres. We'd do the same thing. So it just made sense to obviously be together nonstop.
We also were each other's designated +1. Like if I was going to an event, I'd be like, oh, I'm bringing Remi. Like unless you were invited on your own or vice versa. Or if there was a brand trip, you'd be like, oh, you're my +1. Like it was very well known. Like we're always going to be each other's plus.
Absolutely. Yeah. I miss it.
It was an era.
It was an era.
It was
a hazy era because there was a lot of Tito's.
Yeah. You got me on the Tito's train, bitch.
I did, bitch.
What did the single life look like for both of you? Well, still single.
You're looking at it.
It's great.
Single life for me was sad.
You bitch, it was sad.
It was so sad.
Not in like the way it sounds. Like it's not. I'm like not to be bitchy. You were just very sad. No. Here's the thing. I have to disclaim this first. When we're thinking of single Remi, we're thinking of 1 or 2 years when you were just sad in general. Yeah. Not that you being single is sad.
No.
Like like
I think for me, because I was single up until I literally met Cal,
and you were thriving.
But it was like once I was single for so long, but by choice. Like I was like, oh, I don't want to date. I didn't ever put myself out there. Once I finally started to put myself out there, that's when the era of sadness happened. Looking back on it, it's so funny because I can put myself back in those feelings so easily because it was very traumatic. And I feel like people, like we joke about it, but like actually it was very sad. But looking back, it was solely because I wasn't happy with myself.
I'm thinking of the James Charles TikTok that's like, I was just desperate.
No, like actually.
We can cut that if you want.
No, it's fine. No, I was like looking back, I was taking so much shit from guys because I truly thought that's what I deserved. And that's why I was so sad. No wonder I was so sad. But single life was hard for me because I cared so much about what guys thought of me. I put all of my self-worth in those people. I was picking the wrong people also. So I feel like that's why I was just so sad. But you were I wouldn't have been able to get through that had it not been for you. Oh. Truly. But you're a great single person. But I think it's because you don't put your self-worth in others. That's solely why.
I think my issues with being single are very different. I think I'm on the whole other end of the pendulum where it's like, oh, I'm so independent. I don't need anyone to where it's going to fuck me over when I'm like, fuck, I'm in a relationship and I have to be vulnerable and I have to like say my feelings. And that's going to be hard for me. That's going to be hard.
I want to get into that more, but I want to get all these questions.
But we'll deal with that in another episode.
We'll file that one back for later, but I have good questions around that. Were we on the dating apps at the same time? If so, which ones?
Okay, technically yes, but I'm going to say no because I remember when I feel like I started being way more comfortable with dating apps after you were with Cal.
But also, you always had kind of a shtick with dating apps.
Yeah, I didn't like the idea. I still don't like the idea of them, but I'm able to be more of myself on them. I feel like in the beginning, I was like, how do I do this? Like, what photos? Like, I was so like, oh my God, I don't know what to do.
I feel like I was always surprised by that, but also like you have more of the general consensus I feel like is, or at least was with dating apps. I've never had a problem with dating apps because I mean, for me, it was like either I'd go to a bar and meet some guy. I meet some guy from like fucking Fullerton.
Not that we're shitting on Fullerton.
No, I love Fullerton. My parents went to Cal State Fullerton. But like, I'd be like in Venice and the guy'd be like, I'm from Fullerton. I'm like, why are you here? Like, this is not gonna work. Yeah. So like for me, I'd rather be on a dating app. And like to me, if I met a guy at a bar versus on a dating app, like it's the same thing to me. So that's why I never had a problem with it and I was very open to them.
But you're also like, you're so funny and witty. Like, I feel like you're so good texting someone. I'm not. Like, really? In the beginning, like, no, that's why I like being friends with someone first. Cause I'm like, I have to, like, they have to know who I am. So I don't have to feel like, I feel like I have to put on like I just get over, and I'm like, what do I fucking say to hi? I'm like,
you do really? I mean, I know you overthink
like, it's like,
it.
Hi, how are you? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm fucking good.
Really?
Like, I'm just like, good. Like, what do you like? And then I don't know. I hate it.
Okay, so to answer the question, we weren't using it for the same reason.
The answer is no. This one's interesting. Did you go out to clubs a lot and bars a lot? Yes, but it's not like we would go out to talk to, like, you would go out to talk to guys, but like we weren't the duo who was like, let's go scam men and like go find guys. Yeah. Like we would go get drunk and dance, and like if a guy came around, cool, but most of the time we didn't really like go and finesse.
No.
You know what I mean?
But like we're not those kinds of girlies.
We're not.
Like I want to be. Well, I'm just not.
Especially then I was like basically mute. Like I could not talk to a guy. I was like, I don't know what to say.
She literally
my anxiety was so bad. It was so bad.
I'm so proud of how far you've come.
Thank you so much.
I feel like I feel like we'd go out. I would go out with the hopes of like making out with a guy.
Yeah.
But that was not my, like if I went home, if we ended up back home and I didn't, I'd be like, okay, you want a cheeseburger?
I will say my favorite though is when I'm like, Rem, just give me your keys and I'm good. And I would just go back to your apartment. Like never ever got mad at you for leaving me for a guy.
No.
Ever.
Which I appreciate so much.
I think that's where we really like just meshed well, because to me, I was just like, as long as you give me your keys, I'm not like stuck outside. I could go back to my place, but why would I want to do that?
I love that you would just end up back in my bed.
I'm like, all my stuff's there. Like in my head, I was like, no, I wanted to go out and like whatever. So unless you wanted to go back to your place, and obviously I would go back to my place. But if you were going to his place, then I would just go back to your place.
It was like not even a choice to go back to mine because you had to go to sleep.
And then cooking with Remi always would be like, oh, let me make you breakfast as she's hungover, and I'd be like, okay.
The blueberry.
I had the 5-star hotel, like full on bread and breakfast. Views, like it was great.
Views, the sunrise in the morning.
Yes.
With like leaving your friend at the club, the bar for a guy. I understand. I've had friends who got really upset in the past, and I totally understand that mentality. I just am not one of those people. I got literally left at a Vegas club by myself, blackout, because my friend went home with the guy. Didn't even tell me that she was leaving. She just left.
I do think you just have to have communication. You have to be like, okay, hey, like you have to be like, hey, I'm going. Are you good? Yes, I'm good. Go. But yeah, I do think that's a little.
No, see, like I was like, okay, as long as I can get home, I'm good, and I was fine. But I also understand it does need to be a conversation before. If I find a guy and I go back, is that okay? Or if not, should I not?
If you were telling me all day, like, no, I'm not going back with him. Oh my god, oh, he's like, no, I would never, and then you do, then I'd be pissed. I'd be like, bitch, I had to listen to that, and then you do the opposite. Like, I loved how you always just did what you wanted to do, so I never had to question your motives, and that made it easier for me too, for going out, and if you were like to go home with a guy or something.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So essentially, pre-Cal, BC.
I love saying BC.
Before Cal. Okay, now I feel like that's just, I mean, most people knew that about us if they've listened to the podcast for a long time. But now going into like you actually dating Cal, the moment you guys were official, I want to talk about how our friendship changed.
Okay.
Go ahead. And take the mic.
I want to talk about it. Get into it. Was there a particular moment, big or small, when everyone realized that Cal would be more than a hookup? Like he was here to stay?
I think for me was the day that I met him on the Spider-Man red carpet, like world premiere. I was like, oh, he's not just a hookup.
You'll never let me live that down.
No. Also to me, I would never bring a hookup to like that. I'm like, you don't deserve that. You know how hard I had to work just to get on my first red carpet, let alone a Marvel? Like, you don't deserve that shit. You can see the photo I post on Instagram afterwards, but you're not coming with me on the carpet unless there's something a little more there. You know what I mean?
See, but that's you.
Exactly. So for me, I'm like, oh, this is a big deal.
But for me, I was like, he likes Marvel. That'll be fun. I don't know. I'm sure I've talked about this before, but I have the worst memory. But when I first met Cal, as we all know, I thought that it was just going to be a hookup.
Yeah,
and for
that's
the
so funny.
longest time, I really did too. I think it was probably like a month in or so. And I remember being on the phone with my aunt, and I was kind of expressing to her, like, he's really into me. And truly, this was the first time ever that, like, I was scared because he was actually more into me than I was into him, which scared me because I was so used to the opposite before.
You're like, something's wrong.
Something's seriously wrong with me. I don't know what's going on. And so I remember, and I had all this hesitance because there were certain things that I wasn't quite sure about. I feel like also looking back on it, I was talking myself out of it because I was scared and I was looking for problems that truly didn't exist. And I was like, well, what if we get married? Like, oh my God. And my aunt was like, shut the fuck up and date this guy. Like, he seems great. I feel like you like him more than you're letting on. And truly the reason why I dated him was because of my aunt, because of that conversation I had driving in my car.
He better say thank you.
He really, I don't actually know if he knows that, but truly I was like, you know what? She's so right. I was so scared. And then for me, because for so long to you guys, I was like, oh, it's just a hookup. It's just a hookup. Because I truly thought it was.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, next day it switched. I remember Taryn always talks to me about that too.
Oh my God.
But so it was for when I brought him on the carpet for you.
For me, yeah. It was what it was. Was Remi ever in the honeymoon phase? If so, what did that look like? Oh my God.
Oh,
I mean, I'm a ride or die bitch. Let me just say that. No, I knew you guys were hardcore honeymoon. Like, I feel like more than normal. Also, like, he was your first real relationship where, like, I was so excited for you because one, I know how long you had wanted that, but two, it was someone who I was like, oh, this is like, it made sense. And it was like, oh, he's not just a fuckboy who's gonna like screw her over. Like, I was really excited for you that way. The honeymoon stage, I think I would say it's still in it, but COVID definitely probably changed that for you. I'm sure.
Between us?
Yeah.
Really? I will say it lasted a long time for us. I was gonna
say it was a long ass time from my point of view.
No, it was for me too.
But for me, it stopped at COVID because I stopped seeing you guys.
Yes.
Really.
I would say probably like 6 months into COVID, we were still like in the honeymoon phase.
They were bunnies. Let me fucking tell you. We'd be on a boat and then I was covering the window because I was like, yeah, they just need a moment. It's fine. Like, it kind of felt like high school, but it was cute.
It was like, well, for him and I both, it's like our first like real relationship. But I remember in the pandemic, I was like, damn, like this is going on a long time.
You're like, I'm still not sick of you.
And then I blinked and it was like over, but it wasn't like a bad over. No. It just felt like, okay, we're fully comfortable and like this is life now. Yeah. Which again, I think it was COVID.
I think it's actually a good thing when relationships are out of the honeymoon stage because that means you're like, oh, I still like you.
It's real
because I like you. You know?
Absolutely. How long did it take you to get out of your honeymoon stage?
I don't know. I feel like I haven't had like a real honeymoon stage.
Really?
Yeah.
They're fun.
Being older, it's so different.
I love watching Ash in her honeymoon stage.
Oh, she's in. She is in it.
Okay.
So obviously he comes around, we start seeing each other less.
Yes.
Quite a bit less, I would say.
Yes.
I think this is where things kind of really started changing because I'm thinking of the summer of 19, right?
Mm-hmm. That's when I met him.
I feel like I hardly really saw you that summer. Mm-hmm. And I think there's multiple reasons.
I will say there was someone else in my life that you weren't a fan of, so you wouldn't come around for that. Rightfully so. She was right, as she always is.
So this is how I felt at that time. Okay, there's this summer, Remi has a new boyfriend. I've met him a few times. He's nice. I don't know how long he's gonna be around, to be honest. Like he seemed nice. Like I didn't think they would get married or anything. But I'm like, okay. We have small talk. I hate small talk. Mm-hmm. Like, oh my God, I hate small talk. But like, that's all we really talk about. It's like, hey, how are you? Like, let me try to make an effort. In my past with a lot of friends, I've always been pretty like buds with my friends' boyfriends. He was one of the first boyfriends of a friend where I felt like we didn't click too much, or like I was like, oh, he's also shy. He's like me. Like I can tell like we're only talking about fucking small talk, which I hate, but I'm like, let me try to make an effort. But then also my own social anxiety, like we could be at a table of dinner with all of our best friends, right? If there is one person who's like out of the circle who comes, I get thrown off. I feel like I can't be and this is a fully me problem. And we've talked about this so much before. So when Cal came around, even though we're still just pre-gaming at your apartment to go out, I'm acting different. like I don't know how to be Alisha. I'm like, oh my God, there's this new person. Like I don't feel comfortable around them. So how can I be my like normal, like stupid self? Mm-hmm. But also when it's other people who are also anxious, I feed off of that too. And I'm like, this poor guy, like he's new to this. Like I get that it's a lot. You're in your penthouse, like beautiful apartment, like this influencer life, whatever. So that would get me more in my head where I felt like I couldn't be me because I'm like, oh my God, he just thinks we're like these dumb influencers. Like literally, like my mind was insane.
That's so interesting to hear.
But what's funny, so also you had another friend at the same time and you all kind of were hanging out. So now there were two people that I don't essentially fuck with. I'm like, oh, I don't know them. Like they're strangers. And it was really hard for me to be myself. So you would invite me over to these game nights and I'd be like, it's okay. I'm just going to stay home. You know, whether I was busy or not, I forget. But I just remember being like, oh, I'm not going to enjoy myself and I'm going to like bring down the mood. So I'm just like not going to go because that makes it easier. But what's funny is I hear you or Ollie would be like, oh yeah, she didn't like your friend. So she would be like, no, I'm not hanging around with them. I'm like, no, it was a me problem. I was like, I don't know how to act around them.
Oh, yes. I didn't realize that was the problem the whole time.
But it comes off bitchy and sometimes I'm like, that's funny. But like, no, it's not the case at all. I'm like, fuck, what do we talk about? I don't know how to be granted, back then I had very extreme social anxiety. Like now it's so different. So regardless if it's justified or not, I was not around that summer. I definitely removed myself from you, your new boyfriend, a new friend you had, Ollie, a few other people. And I was just like kind of doing my own thing. I definitely was like working the whole time and I was busy. And I remember I was just like fucking overwhelmed all the time. But looking back, I would say I didn't really make any effort to like get to know Cal. Cause in my head I was like, oh, he's not going to be around for a long time. Well, joke's on me. He's still here.
That's actually so true because Ollie and Cal are very, very, very close.
Yeah.
But also Cal is someone who I feel like he gets very anxious. He kind of shuts down if he's not. Yeah. It's so funny to me that you said that about other boyfriends because I feel like out of all the boyfriends that I've seen you be friends with other boyfriends, people's other boyfriends, you and Cal are the most similar. And you guys
which makes sense.
I know. Well,
why we're not as like
shutting down.
Buds. And which is funny. Let's keep going.
I think Cal has to have, like, I feel like I can go out and I can meet literally anybody and I can find some sort of common ground or just become buds off of just like the night. But both you and Cal both need to find like real common ground. Mm-hmm. You also both need to be having like a good day to connect with someone. You also both, I feel like, need to have like very deep, simple. You both hate small talk. You both like, you guys are literally the same fucking person.
And we're both Aries.
You both Aries. So many similar traits when you guys do things. I'm like, God, what am I doing right now? But I feel like Cal also, he really needs like a deep connection with someone. And I feel like he needs to have very similar interests. And Ollie and him have very similar interests in a lot of things, which is why they've been able to get so close. And that summer was a very formative summer. Looking back on it, I kind of forgot about that.
Oh my God, totally.
So I feel like you and Cal, like Cal loves you. And even like last night we had a conversation about how like, he's like, I love when Alisha and I have conversations, like they're good conversations.
Yeah.
So I feel like you guys, it just took a little bit longer for you guys to mesh.
It's funny though, because now hearing this, I'm like, not me having an aha moment 3 years later where I'm like, oh, I just need to treat him like he's me.
No, literally.
Like, I'm like, oh, because in my head, I feel like I always wait for other people. I feed off of other people so much. So I'm like, well, if they don't want to talk, like, then I'm not going to push anything. I don't know. Like, I think I'm like, maybe he's just
He's also not the type to reach out to people.
Yeah.
He's very bad at reaching out.
I'm not either.
No, I know. That's what I'm telling you. You guys both don't reach out to people, which maybe that's why he picked me and you picked me, which is so funny. But I feel like you guys, like, it's taken a little, it's been a slow burn.
Yeah.
But I also respect that because I understand that you guys are never going to be like besties, which I'm also fine with because we can get that into this a little bit later. But like, I like that Cal and I have our relationship that we have. I'm so genuinely happy with every fiber of my being for the relationship that we have. But I also like that he's far enough removed where he loves you guys. He respects all of my friends, but like, I don't want to bring him to everything that I do. I want to have my own, like, I feel like I'm very proud of myself because when I did get into a relationship, I didn't drop everybody for him.
You did without and like consciously thinking that, I would say you 1,000% dead.
Thank you so much. But I think it's truly because he like loves all you guys, but also doesn't want to like be around all the time because he wants me to have those relationships and those experiences still. And same with my relationship with his friends.
Yeah. So I think the hardest thing for me about you getting a boyfriend was honestly my relationship with Cal. Not even so much us hanging out less because I think, you know, I think we had a healthy outlook on that of like being like, okay, that was a time we both really needed each other, forever thankful for those years where we were conjoined at the hip, and now we're growing and we're like evolving and stuff. So I don't feel like there were times where I'd be like, oh, I kind of miss like going on a trip with Remi, because instead you would bring Cal, and then I'd be like, okay, well, who am I going to bring? I'll bring Ash or TK or something like that. So I think that was the main difference that really changed when we started traveling or going out to things. Like we both had other plus ones versus each other. Yeah. And then I felt like we came to the point where we would talk about it and be like, hey, like I miss you. Like the next trip, like let's just go just us or something. Like even though we can bring people. So I thought we had a healthy outlook with that. But I would say the hardest thing for me was just someone new coming into the mix who, especially once I was like, oh, he's not leaving. I would be like, okay, like I have to make effort. I have to like be comfortable going over, like, because especially when you guys moved in, I think that was probably the first moment where I really was like, okay, they're moving in together. It's not just me going over to her apartment. Like we got to figure this out. I think that was, for me at least, the hardest thing. So one thing I've struggled in my entire life with, you know how there's certain things that just don't click for you?
Yes.
For me, it's grammar. And I know it clicks with you because you're always correcting my grammar.
Well, no need for that anymore because Grammarly exists.
Thank God.
Thank God.
No, actually, thank God I use it.
It's truly amazing. But also, you guys know I do cooking with Remi. I'm writing up recipes a lot. And I also have some struggles with it.
I will say, you do have to have good grammar when it comes to that, because you are writing recipes where, for me, I just add ... if I don't know where the comma goes. So what I love is they have free features that anyone can use. For instance, a double-click synonym feature. So if you're looking for a word to replace, that's a little difficult. Maybe you can use the word trouble or stress instead. That's super easy, which is awesome and really kind of sets your writing apart.
So you guys can use Grammarly's premium clarity and conciseness suggestions to convey your message clearly and effectively. And a new workplace can always be intimidating, but you guys got this. Keep up the confidence in your writing with Grammarly's premium tone transforms.
So write like the pro you're becoming with Grammarly. Go to grammarly.com/basic to sign up for a free account. And when you're ready to upgrade to Grammarly Premium, get 20% off for being our listener.
That's 20% off at grammarly.com/basic. Something that like shocks me about Cal sometimes, because it's like times like this where I realize how different he and I are, because there's sometimes where I'm like, oh, we have so much in common. Like when we have talks about whether it's like politics or movies or whatever it is, I'm like, oh my God, we're like such soulmates. And then like when you walk in the house and he comes downstairs and says nothing. What the fuck?
No, what's funny though is like,
no, that's so rude. That's so rude. Like things like that where I'm like, and I've talked to him about it, because like in my growing up, hello, cruise residents, Remi speaking, like just polite manners. It's like someone walks in the house, hi, welcome. Can I get you anything? Do you want a water? Like very like host vibes and things like that. He wasn't raised like that. So I've had conversations where it's not just you.
You know, what's funny though is Ashley does that too. Like this morning, I was like, oh, hi, Ash. Like, I'm like, but I think for both of them, because it's technically our houses, I feel like they don't feel like he doesn't feel like it's your guys' house. Like, I think if you guys were married and had a kid and like, and I came over, it'd be more like, oh, welcome to our place. And I think even Ashley, like, and she's even told me, she's like, this is your house. Like, yes, I'm paying rent, but like, this is your house. So like, it just feels different. So maybe that's something to us we don't understand.
Actually, that's a really good perspective.
You know what I mean? Like, or even this morning, for instance, Ashley comes down, we're getting like hair and makeup done, and we're like I think they try not to be in the way. They're like, oh, I don't want to be in the way for filming or talking or whatever.
That's a good perspective.
You know what I mean? But I also get your side, because you know, if I ever go over and Cal comes down, doesn't say hi, I'm like, oh, is he mad?
That's how I feel about Ashley when she doesn't talk to me. That's exactly how I feel.
But yeah,
I feel like that's things where I'm like, to me, I used to think like, oh, because he's not saying hi to, whether it's you, whether it was like someone doing my hair, Ollie, whatever. It's like, even like my parents, like he's just like kind of like, he comes in, he gets his water, he's like very quiet. I'm like, hello, like we have guests here, you can say hi. And I always thought like, oh, they're gonna think he's like so rude and doesn't want them to be over or something like that. So we had to talk about it. I was like, you know, you can like say hi, you can like welcome people, like they're gonna feel like you're not wanting them to be over. Like it builds this weird tension that like I know doesn't exist for him, so why are you doing that? So it was a good conversation that we had.
I remember noticing a shift after
the next time you go over, hi, welcome.
Yeah, I was like, oh, hi, but then I was the same way back. I'd be like, oh my God, hey, what's up?
Exactly.
Like, yeah, that's so funny. I think this is a good lesson though for people listening. Like, don't assume that you know what the other person's thinking, because like, for instance, in this situation, I was like, oh, you're like, I could easily be like, your boyfriend's so rude. I feel like I didn't think that, because I was like, oh, he's probably just whatever. But that's not the reality at all. Or even you thinking, oh, Alicia's just like bitchy and doesn't want to be around or make effort, and like knowing that there's more to the story. And I feel like a lot of times when girls or guys get a significant other, a partner, boyfriend, whatever, and they kind of like distance themselves, I think there's always like, it's always communication that's the issue, because one friend's like, do you not want to bring them around me? Are you embarrassed of me? Then the other friend is like, no, I'm still trying to like figure out like you never had a problem bringing him around me, even after like the week 1 or 2, where a lot of like, whenever I get a boyfriend, especially if you don't know them, I'm definitely gonna be like, oh, don't meet my friends yet. Cause I'm gonna be like, your guys' opinions to me is everything. And if you guys don't like him, then I'm done. Then I'm like, fuck.
Interesting.
So I might gatekeep a little bit, because I'm like, okay, I need to like, assess it out or whatever. But that's not because I don't love you and I don't want you to hang out with them. It would be because I'm like, fuck, I don't want to bring him around and then me really like him, and then you guys be like, hey, like we have to be honest, like I have bad feelings about, like, even though I should want your opinion, but like when it's still new and you get nervous, like that's how I would be. But I could see that being an issue where you'd be like, wait, like why don't you bring him around? Like, you know what I mean?
No, that's good to know for me. I personally don't care what anybody thinks.
Yeah,
that's why I brought
good.
every guy around that was literally around for a week or for 3 years.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like, oh my God, this sounds like a fun party. Let's go. But of course I do care about what you guys say, and I will take it into account. But ultimately, I also know like I'm going to do whatever I want.
Yeah, no, I love that.
That's always how I felt. But I feel like both with you and Cal, you're both much more complex people than you seem. Than like what you guys put out. And I know you through and through. I know Cal through and through. So I've never like pushed you guys to be closer than you are, because I appreciate that it's been a slow burn.
Also, like, not that I'm saying this is wrong, but like him and I shouldn't be BFFFs. Do you know what I mean? Like he's your boyfriend. Like I think that's also like having those healthy boundaries. Like, I don't know. It would be weird if we were like hanging out all the time or texting all the time, or like, I don't know. I feel like that'd be weird.
Well, I love your relationship with Cal.
I'd rather it be slow, and like, let's say you guys get married or you're together even just so much longer. I'd rather it be slow and like an actual real relationship and friendship that we built, versus just like I don't know.
No, I know you guys. I love your relationship with Cal, and I love Cal's relationship with you. I know you guys both respect each other. I know you both love each other.
But I have your back over him any day.
Absolutely. But I know you guys, like the conversations you guys do have, I know because I hear from him also like how much he enjoys talking to you. Yeah. Like I know that it means a lot to you and him. So I think it's a very respectful relationship to me. Yeah. I love it overall. I've never had a problem with it ever. I've never been like, oh, I wish you would reach out more, because I also know with you as a person, when you reach out, it's genuine. Yeah. And so I would never want you to like reach out fraudulently or create a relationship fraudulently. Like I've always been happy with everything.
Oh my God, this is so interesting.
I mean that. No, I've never been like, I wish you'd reach out more to him, because I know like when you want to, you want to.
You know, like what if I didn't like Cal? Like if I fully didn't like him? You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people listening who are in that position. They're like, I hate her boyfriend, or I hate the girl that he's with, or whatever the case is. And that's a very hard position to be in, because you never, like, I would never want to put you in an ultimatum where it's like, it's me or him. Yeah. But if it got to that point where I'm like, hey, like, you're not valuing my opinion, what I'm trying to tell you, but also like, it is important to do what you want to do. Like that is a whole mess of a tangled web.
I mean, I've been in that situation before personally. And, I mean, it was hard because I wanted my friend to be, all I want is for my friend to be happy. And all I want is my friend to be respected and be in a healthy relationship. That's all I cared about. There were things that I definitely saw that I didn't love, but also at the time I had never been in a relationship either. So I always felt like I didn't, like my advice wasn't important or valid because I hadn't been in those relationships or had any experience. So I tried my best to respect it, but there were still things that I didn't love. And so our relationship ultimately suffered. Yeah. And we kind of just drifted. Yeah. And now they ended up breaking up, and now they're with a new boyfriend, and they're so happy, and I love the boyfriend for them, and like that all I want is for them to be respected, and that was just the biggest thing. It's like I didn't have a lot in common with the guy, and that's totally fine. But what I didn't like is how they were treated. Exactly. So that was my big issue with it. But now they're, ultimately we needed to take some time apart, and she needed to see that through. And even if they did get married and had kids and she lived with them forever, and then
still gonna love her.
Then that's fine. That's what she wants, and I have to respect that. I also like expressed how I felt, which obviously wasn't fun for her to hear, but I know ultimately she took that into consideration, chose to not listen to that. That's fine.
Yeah.
I never was resentful over that. I was happy that I expressed what I felt because that's what you do as a best friend, but she didn't want to hear that, and she didn't take my advice, and that's fine.
I'm thinking of how one thing I think we did good with this is I think we were able to realize that our friendship was evolving as well as you getting a boyfriend. Like there were different things in my head. And I think a lot of friendships kind of combine them. They're like, oh, you're different now because of him, or you're different now because of her, which yes, that can be the case sometimes. But a lot of times I would say take a few steps back and realize, are you comparing your friendship to how it was 6 years ago? Like it would be stupid of me to be like, you're different because of Cal, and compare our relationship to when we were best friends in 2018, like 5 years ago. Like I think a lot of people, I think it's easier because it's of such an obvious like point in time when someone starts dating someone to be like, oh, you're different now. When it's like, have they been different this whole time? But now it's more visual. Like now it's easier to see. Because I think,
and you have something tangible to blame it on.
And it's like, also people can change. Like maybe, I remember I had a friend who her interest kind of changed with the guy that she was seeing. And it started to bother me after like the fourth boyfriend.
Giving Kourtney Kardashian.
Where I would be like, wait, you hate that. Like what the fuck? When in reality, I'm like, that's really bad of me to put that expectation on her. Cause maybe, you know what? Maybe now she's really into knitting, you know, and now maybe he introduced that to her and now she loves that.
Yeah.
Instead of me keeping her in the box that she was in before. So I think that is something that we've done pretty well of realizing like our friendship had evolved and changed, and we grew as people as well as you having someone come into your life.
Throughout this conversation, I feel like I'm always just like, no thoughts, just like floating. But I think going back to that time, I feel like not like there was like a short end of the stick, but I feel like my life was changing so much because I had this new person that I had wanted for so long.
Yeah.
I like was like, oh my God, I'm so happy. And I'm like, I got to do and like live that life that I had been dreaming of for so long, which like, that was a problem that I put that on such a pedestal in my brain, but that's another episode. But I mean, I was like, oh, I have this boyfriend. I was like in my honeymoon phase, I was living, and I feel like you were the one who kind of had to deal, I don't know how to phrase this because I don't want it to be
get the shit in. I don't
not,
think that.
not like that, but just like my life changed. I feel like so like there was a tangible person like changing my life there. Whereas I feel like if anything, you were just like losing me. Is that making sense?
I know, I was so heartbroken.
No, but like I feel like that, like looking back, I didn't consider your feelings as much, and I'm sorry.
Oh my God, don't even.
No,
no, because for me, I think that was my biggest like growth period of me and myself. Like think of 2018 Alisha versus 2019 Alisha.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Even 2019, like, and that's when you and Cal really started dating. Like I was traveling so fucking much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a really important time for me. Like I loved seeing you grow. And it made me be like, oh my God, Alisha, you should push yourself on dating apps more. You should try to talk to people more. You should like make new friends. Like you should do what Remi's doing. Like it was very inspiring to me because I was like, I don't want to feel comfortable and just be like, I don't know. And at that time, like, like me and TK started getting closer. I feel like Ashley and I, like our relationship got so much better than it used to be. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I never had that thought of like, oh, I'm losing her.
Oh, good.
But also you would still be around.
That's the thing. I feel like our situation was actually perfect for us.
Yeah.
And for what it was.
I will say looking back, I'm like, oh, I could have still handled that better.
Me too.
T.
Can
I ask you a question?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Whether it is Cal or some other guy, how would you, as your best friend, want me to approach you if I was like, hey, there's something that I don't agree with? Would you rather me like sit you down? Would you rather me like drop hints? Would you rather me like how would you in your perfect world like that communication?
I think what I've learned, this is not answering your question whatsoever.
Okay.
I've learned, I think for me, my brain, when I need to talk to someone, goes immediately to, we need to have a sit down. We need to have like a heart-to-heart conversation. But it could literally be like, your bangs are bad, or it could be like, your boyfriend's cheating on you.
Yes.
But like, to me, both of those don't need to be sit down conversation.
Yes.
Like, I've learned like, oh, it can be like dropped casually, or it can be a heart to heart intervention if you need it to be. So I think it depends on the severity of the situation.
Yeah.
I think if it were like, oh, you know, he's really messy, then it could be a drop.
Totally.
A
But
car
like, if I
conversation.
heard he was talking to another girl, not Cal, just in general.
Then I think sit me down and talk to me like that. I think that and as much as I quote unquote do what I want to do, I also truly value your opinions, my mom's, Ollie, everybody that means so much to me in life. Like, I take everything to heart. I really do. I think in that situation, either I'm going to fully believe you and be like, oh my God, like, okay, this needs to be done. Or I think I'm going to be like, honestly, I'm so 50-50, and I'm someone who, my mom hates this about me, needs to learn through my own mistakes.
Yeah.
My whole life. She'd be like, well, your cousin did this. Like, you don't have to. I'd be like, no, I want to learn for myself. And she'd be like, okay, here we go. Here we go. Exactly. So I think it just kind of depends on how I'm feeling in the moment and like where my relationship is at.
Yeah.
But I think a sit down is always better for something that's big.
like that.
Yeah.
I would agree. I feel like for me, I would just want to know like that it's a fact. Like, I would want like hardcore evidence. If that, because the anxiety that I would get of a, hey, can we talk? And then a, hey, we're going to sit down. I'm going to be like, he got a girl pregnant. I would, like, my head would go to the worst case scenario. So I feel like I would just need like, oh, not even that. Because I guess even if you were to be like if you were to sit me down in that scenario and be like, I have a really bad feeling about this guy, I don't think he treats you right, I'd be like, holy shit, she's being serious. But like, I don't know. Oh my God, I just get anxiety thinking about that.
No, but I think like that's it. It would definitely sit with me and like be in the back of my mind always. Like, I'd always respect what you say.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, okay, even if I was like ultimately like, okay, like I appreciate that, I'm gonna still date this guy.
I would, oh my God, I was just gonna say that. Even if I was with some shitty ass person, I would love still hearing from you. Like, we can like disagree. I love you and I'm here for you. Obviously you can do whatever you want to do. Cause I feel like you're the same way. Cause like, if I tell you, no, don't do that, I know you're going to be like, I'm going to do the opposite of it.
No, I think like it'd be good. Obviously, like I respect your opinion, and then moving forward with my relationship, if I choose to do so, then, you know, maybe something happens. And I'm like, oh, this is what she was talking about.
But then also, I do think it's very naive of me. Like, if I was to say, I hear you, Rem, thank you, but I'm still going to date this douchebag, to then not realize that would cause a little bit of division, because that breaks some trust between us. You know what I mean? Like, you were being vulnerable to share that, and it would be naive of me to think, oh, well, everything will be fine between us. Like, I do think that would cause a little bit like of hurt, of you being like, wow, like, you know what I mean? I don't know. I think it's so situational.
I think it is, but it also depends. Like, if you were to come to me and talk to me about it, it's like you can't have any sort of expectations going into it either. Like, you can't go in and essentially like mentally have this ultimatum of like, oh, I'm going to say this and she's going to break up with him. Yeah. Because I might not, but you can't be resentful of me if I don't. Yeah. You're doing it because you want to be a good friend and you want to be honest with me.
Also, I think that's where I struggle too when I see friendships that are like that, where they're like, you need to break up with him. Because, and I know that comes from a place of love of what you want them to do, but I don't know. I think I'd rather, at least and I know it's so different when you're in it, but I would rather still be in your life than being like, it's me or him.
Absolutely.
And then, I don't know. And I think it's so messy. So I feel like I'm not giving good advice.
I understand. I'm in Korean culture. It's, if you're very, very Korean, like, they want you to date and marry Korean people. Like, they want to keep it in the Korean culture. So I have my parents luckily have been very open to just like whoever I love, as long as they treat me well, that's all they care about. But I have family members who people in my life have made their kids break up with their significant others because they're not Korean. And it's so, and I've heard about it for years, and it just breaks my heart. For sure. It breaks my heart because I don't know. I feel like that shouldn't be something that deciphers. I love my parents' ideas where as long as they respect you and love you, that's all they care about, because that's all you could want for your kid. So it's like a hard thing.
It's crazy. It's crazy because I've never had to think about that for me. Yeah. I'm like, I've never, obviously I'm a fucking mutt. I don't even know what I am. I should do a DNA test.
You should do it, Mark.
Okay.
This has been a very insightful conversation about our relationship.
I like how it's just kind of an open conversation versus like, here are tips, because it is so different for every friendship. Like, everything I'm saying to you could be the complete opposite of what I should do for another friend of mine. You know what I mean? And I think my biggest takeaway is, I even saw this TikTok one time that was like, this woman in her 40s or 50s being like, the biggest life lessons I've ever learned. And number one was like, your female friendships will forever be better than any significant other. Like, never just ditch your friends for a guy. And that is something I will say too, like, speaking broadly and not thinking specifics. Like, when I do see girls just like kind of bow out and like ditch all their friends, and then they're with a guy and they break up and they kind of come back to the group like, hi guys. Like, I think again, it's naive to think that there weren't hurt feelings involved, or that those friendships progressed without you. Like,
have you seen Dollface
No.
on Hulu?
Is that it?
Yeah. It's
Oh
like very
my
much
God.
that. It's
Shay
like,
Mitchell's in that, right?
yeah.
Okay.
It's like the girl, you know, dipped out for like years with her boyfriend,
Yeah.
and then comes back and they're like, hi. And they have to go back and like rekindle all those relationships,
Yeah.
apologize, and make up for all that time lost, because it is hurtful.
Yeah.
And people might, you know, get over it, but you have to build up those relationships back again. It's never going to be back to how it was before.
Yeah.
And there's like a lot of trust lost. I will say something that I'm a big, Ollie and I had this conversation recently where he's like, I love that you are still you, and you've always been you, and you've never ditched
Yeah.
me for Cal, and all those sorts of things. And he loves to like hold me to the standard of that. And I was telling him, I was like, honestly, I think it's truly because the way that Cal and I played out was I had finally just given up on dating. And I was truly just like, I don't need a guy anymore. Like I'm tired of exhausting myself. I'm tired of putting my self-worth in all these people. I'm fucking awesome. And if someone wants to date me, cool.
Yeah.
If I want to date someone,
So from
cool.
day one, you were yourself with him. So you didn't have to be, it's not like you're like, oh, I'm embarrassed to bring him around this person because I act such a different way with him. Or like I pretend you know what I mean?
Or also it's like, it wasn't ever like, oh my God, he chose me. I can't wait to hang out with him all the time. Like, oh my God. It was like, we vibe. That's awesome. Like, now let's hang out. But so like, that's why I feel like I was able to be so healthy with Cal and all my other relationships.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't lose. And I feel like really like my relationships with the people changed, but nothing ever like took a step down.
I will say because there was a few other guys you were talking to who weren't good guys before Cal. And let's pretend you were like, quote, dating them. I remember I was never like, oh, she's seeing him again. He broke her heart, blah, 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 blah. I think my outlook with it was more, this is just a huge learning time in your life. Like, this is the time where you're getting your heart broken, you're putting yourself out there. And I think as hard as it was to watch you go through that, I knew it was inevitable. And I feel like everyone in their life goes through that heartbreak, whether it's through like with a relationship or even just someone you were talking to or seeing. Like, I think that's a very crucial like time that's inevitable in every single person's life. So I don't think I was really hung up on the fact of like, oh, he's treating you horrible. I was like, oh, you just need to learn this. Like, this is
That's
fucking
how
life.
I feel about you when you're gonna date. I'm like, because I know you want to go out and meet your husband on the first day, which I
don't.
Don't we all? But you need to learn.
Yeah.
And also, as I was talking to Ollie about the whole Cal thing, I was like, thank God none of those guys before actually turned into a real relationship, because bitch, I would have been out. Bye.
Oh no, you would have been
gone.
You would have been very different. And I think this podcast would be very different, because I think I would be like, yeah,
would have been just aggression.
Yeah. I'd be like, remember when you ditched me at the club?
Where have you been? Where have you been? Haven't seen you in a week. But I think but I'm still the same person. It's just because at that time, if a guy had dated me, which is so embarrassing to say looking back on it now, but everybody goes through this. I put my self-worth in them, meaning like, I'd be like, oh my God, they chose me. I am the chosen one. Oh my God, I won, bitch. I won. And then I would have put like all my time and energy into them because I was so grateful that they were dating me, as horrible as it sounds.
No.
Whereas when I met Cal, I truly felt like an equal, and I felt like, okay, like I like you as much as you like, or rather he liked me more, but I got to the point where it was equal. So I felt like, okay, like I can spend time with you, but I also still have so many other relationships I need to tend to.
Yeah.
So it was good. But I feel like for a lot of people, and I'm thinking of like all of our friends who are in relationships and the relationships that they've all gone through. We've had friends who have had multiple boyfriends while we've been friends with them.
Yeah.
It's kind of different with each one, because also it's at what point in their lives that they're at.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this next part of the pod I'm actually excited for, because we put a little quiz and some polls up on our Instagram story. So go follow at Pretty Basic Official if you want to be included next time. But this is fun because for us, obviously, normally we just talk and you guys listen. But it's interesting to hear from you guys, like your perspective on everything. So we put up some polls, kind of just honestly all of the things that we've been talking about. And it's so interesting hearing your guys' perspectives of all this. Like what it's like for you and your bestie getting a boyfriend or whatever.
Wait, let's answer the polls for each, like for ourselves, and then see if we're in the majority or not. Okay. So your best friend got a boyfriend, ...
Did you and your bestie start seeing each other less?
Yes.
Yeah, we did. We obviously talked about that.
Which inevitably will happen, but
Oh, 72% of you said yes. Also, I think it's just inevitable. Like, it's inevitable.
How are you going to split your time
And
after?
it's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
It can be a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Agreed. Do you approve of your bestie's partner?
Yes. I told Cal at Coachella.
Yeah, she actually did. They had a nice heart-to-heart.
71% said yes.
Oh, good.
That surprises me. For some reason, I kind of thought the no would be more.
29% no. I mean, it sounds like hopefully our besties are picking good guys.
Also, maybe you just hear more when someone doesn't like the boyfriend.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
do you know how like when you have someone in your life that's like not treating you the best, you don't want to tell your mom
Exactly.
because your mom holds on to that. And then like,
Oh my
you know,
God.
you could have a little blip with a friend and
Yeah.
then you guys make up and it's fine, but your mom will never forget that
Oh yeah,
blip.
she's like, she treated you horrible.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I feel like that's how I feel sometimes when I have problems with Cal, where I'm like, oh, I want to tell you or Ollie or Asian Girl Squad or something, but I'm like, oh, but I don't want them to think badly of him.
Yeah.
That's kind of a vibe that I get
that.
sometimes, but also like then it's your best. It's kind of like your job to create a safe space where you're not going to like hold me to things like
Yeah.
that
Oh,
because
yeah.
you want me to be able, which you have absolutely. And
Yeah.
everybody in my life has, and I have no problem talking to you guys about things. I feel like in the beginning it was harder for me, but you guys have created that safe space for me to feel like I'm comfortable and you can give me sound advice, and also you have the perspective of like, oh well, they're in a relationship, things are gonna happen.
Yeah.
regardless.
Oh my God. Next one, feeling left out of plans. No, I would say no for me.
Me, no as well. 53% said no.
Interesting.
That's pretty close though. I feel like if you're feeling left out of plans, I think it's hard because you, as a best friend, if your best friend also gets a boyfriend, then you have to respect that they need their own time, which I've been there too. I've felt left out of plans when my friends have gotten boyfriends, but you have to respect like they need their own time. But also there are times where you should be able to be invited. So it's just a simple conversation of like, hey,
Yeah.
next time you do that, like would I be able to come? Or if you really want, like maybe you can start, maybe like you make a plan and you're like, Rem, Cal, you guys want to go on a hike?
But
Something
also,
like that.
I would never, I mean, I know you would still love me to be there, but I would never be shocked why I wasn't invited to like a double or triple date. Like, I get that it's different with other couples.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's
Totally.
needed in relationships. You're
Totally.
like, oh my God, like, I don't know. Like,
But I also view you and Ollie as a couple.
I
where
know,
I'm like,
I know, literally.
you guys touch each other enough to be a couple. Have you made time for your friends lately?
I think yes.
You really have. You've been really good. And I would say yes as well.
73% said yes.
Loves it.
Have you checked in on your bestie? Yes.
Yes. Every day. Hi.
Oh no, I was thinking this morning.
Oh, this morning too? Yes,
I was
you
like,
did.
can we talk?
Yeah, she did a really good job. 73% yes. Ooh, 27% no.
Ooh, how to not be jealous of your BFF who is in a relationship. This is good because I do think a lot of people, if they're fighting with their friend for being in a relationship, I guarantee a lot of it deep down is like, you are kind of jealous or you are lonely. Like I think try to be able to separate that and just be happy for them. Like, it is such a special, I will say, I think this would also be a very different podcast episode if I hadn't been in a relationship before. Because I feel like for me, I'd be like, what do you mean we were together all the time? Where I feel like I'm just so excited for you because I'm like, oh, I love young love. Like, that's the best feeling ever. And I don't know. I think that's something else too.
I think hearing your perspective of you just being happy for me because you know how badly I wanted it and how hard I worked at myself to be in a relationship too, I think says a lot. And I appreciate that I never thought you were jealous. I know you were never jealous
And
also.
I always told you too, before Cal, I would always say you could be in any relationship, but you don't want to be in just any relationship. And I think that's what I would tell to someone who is jealous is like, bitch, you could go to literally tonight and go find a boyfriend anywhere. It's not hard to find a boyfriend. You want a real relationship, a real connection, and that's harder to find.
Absolutely.
So just like, I would say if you're jealous, don't be, I mean, like, you could also be in a relationship, and also sometimes there are relationships that people are in where it's like, ooh, I don't want that. Like, you can learn through your best friend having a boyfriend and learn about things you do and don't like in someone, whether that works for you or not. Like, it's interesting for me with all my friends being in relationships, being able to be like, ooh, I love that about them. Oh, I like don't love that. Seeing Ashley and Jackson, like seeing them cook every single night. I'm like, oh, I never thought I'd like really be into cooking, but I kind of like, I like how they do that.
I love that.
Little stupid quirky things that you're like, oh, that's cute. I like that I would not know if I wasn't around other couples, you know?
And it's so important also to remember that everybody has someone. Like, Cal is perfect for me and we fit together like puzzle pieces.
My favorite thing about you and Cal is your guys' humor from day one has been the same. And I'm like, I always knew I needed someone who's funny and like who gets my humor. But I feel like you guys really solidified that for me because I was like, damn, you never changed. And from the very beginning, you had the same humor you've always had. And he compliments it. And I'm like, whoa, I love that. So like little things like that, I wouldn't have known unless I was around other people. And if I was just being jealous, I wouldn't be able to learn from them, you know?
Yeah, very true. Good advice.
Thanks.
Oof. My guy, this one?
Yeah.
My guy best friend just told me he had feelings for me while I'm in a relationship.
Okay. I mean, we don't know anything else about this context. I'm like, are you into the friend? Are you madly, deeply in love in your relationship? There's lots of different factors here. First of all, though, dude, you couldn't have said it sooner. You couldn't have said it sooner.
In like my head, I'm like, oh my God, it's such a movie moment. But like, no, it's not a
toxic as fuck.
Not a good movie
moment.
Also,
I had an experience. I won't go too far into that detail.
He had a photo of her. With,
No. But I was like, honestly, at the time I was pissed because I was like, why are you talking to me now? Why are you saying all these things now when you're in a fucking relationship? Like, why the fuck? Like, things could have been different. But then I was like, no, this is so good because clearly, why is this bitch telling me stuff when he's in a relationship, first of all? You know what I mean?
I think it's ultra disrespectful,
yes,
obviously.
It's like, really, dude?
I think it's disrespectful to you. Yes. I think it's disrespectful to your boyfriend.
Yes.
I think that you just, it sucks. It sucks. And obviously your guy best friend wants you to break up with your boyfriend and leave him for you, or leave him for him.
My other advice for this is people always want what they can't have. Probably being in a relationship makes him even more like, quote, in love with you, or you may be like more interested in him. What's going to happen is you break up with your boyfriend now and then you get with him and then suddenly you guys are like, oh, the spark's kind of gone. And it was because y'all couldn't have each other. And like, that's also a very, very toxic situation to be in because you're like, oh, but I think I'm really like it. It's like you can't have both. I don't know. And I feel like a lot of people like the chase and people want what they can't have.
I feel like the only thing you can do in this situation, obviously if you're happy with your boyfriend, is cut off the guy best friend. It doesn't have to be like a big thing. I think it can just be like, look, obviously I respect that you have these feelings. I appreciate that you have, no, don't even say that because you have a boyfriend. Be like, I respect that you have those feelings, but I'm in a relationship. I respect my boyfriend. We can't be friends if you're going to have these feelings. So thank you, but sorry.
Yeah.
And then I think you have to cut it off. And then hopefully you and your boyfriend are happy together. And then if, God forbid, you guys ever break up and you have those feelings for your guy best friend down the line, then maybe something could happen. But I feel like you can't have him around anymore. Obviously. You want to
someone put, they broke up, star eyes, stars. Yeah. We love when you're like, thank fucking God they broke up. But to her, you're like, you know what? We knew it's okay as long as you're fine.
And like, then you got to be there to pick up the pieces.
And pick up, be like, it's okay. We knew this would happen.
It's okay, baby girl.
And everything happens for a reason. But we love
we don't love.
No, we do. When
if it was a bad guy,
yes. Oh, okay. Last one. This one's really good. I'm so constantly worried that everything I tell my best friend is going to be passed on to him. Ooh. I will say there are certain people in my life where I'm like, if I tell them this, they're going to tell their partner. Mm-hmm. Like they're gonna. From the single person perspective, I just assume anything I tell someone, they will tell their boyfriend or girlfriend. Mm-hmm. Unless I say, don't fucking tell your boyfriend or girlfriend.
As the person in a relationship, I can say everything you tell me, I tell Cal, unless you tell me.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody, then I keep that to myself.
Yeah, I think it's good to just, and you can have that conversation with your friend being like, hey, I don't want him to know about my sex life. I don't want him to know about this. I don't want him to know, like, whatever. And I think that's, then, you know, it can be a topic. Like, I could go to you and be like, hey, please don't tell Cal about anything family related for me. Mm-hmm. And then from there on, you know, anything family related, perfect. You don't tell him. But also, like, you don't want to have to start every single sentence with, okay, please don't tell them this. So that's why I think topic-wise, it's great. If there's, like, a specific area in your life where you're like, hey, Rem, please don't tell Cal about my sex life, you'd probably be like, perfect, I don't want to anyway.
Yeah.
He also doesn't want to hear it. Or whatever it is. But like that way you don't have to start every sentence or everything with like, please don't tell him this. Cause that gets redundant too.
Yeah.
But yes, I would just, you know what? It's part of it. And I think when you are in a relationship, you also realize how you guys are like one person. Like you do just, they're your best friend. You tell them everything. But yeah, just it's not a bad thing, I think.
I think maybe the person writing in, granted, like they seem a little bit paranoid.
Yeah, or like
that it's like it's all bad things. I mean, personally, between you and I, like between our relationship and when I tell Cal, I don't go around telling him unless it's like a good thing that happened to you. I'm like, oh my God, this happened with Parallel or something. Like then we're excited and we're celebrating. But like your personal things, I mean, I just don't care to tell him because why does he need to know that?
He also doesn't care.
He doesn't really care to know. And also like, why would I tell him that? But if like there's something where like I want to talk to you about something or something like that, like I will bounce it off Cal and I'll like almost practice sometimes. And I will say Cal usually like almost always will like give me good perspective of like I get in my head very much. Yeah. And I feel like a problem that I have is I very much see my way and I have trouble seeing other people's ways. But talking to Cal is great because Cal I feel like is very level-headed and as much as he loves me, he also loves you. Yeah. So a lot of times he'll be like, well, maybe she's like thinking like this or maybe that or like whether it's you or I mean, I'm only talking to you right now, but like literally with my mom, with Ollie, with anybody in my life where I have a problem that I want to talk to them about, he gives me really good perspective. So maybe to the person writing in, maybe your best friend's boyfriend is actually like coming in clutch and like giving them good perspective. Oh,
the amount of guys that I've defended when they were douchebags, I'm like, come on, like it is so smart for any boyfriend of my friends to like
befriend you
good with me because I'm like, you realize I could make or break you right now. For you. I'm like, you realize like I wouldn't do that, but like
but for real. But it is good to have perspective around you and it is good to have a sounding board because when you are having these ideas in your head, sometimes you can drive yourself absolutely crazy. But I do think like personal information should be off limits.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. Well, thank you guys so much. I loved having the questions from you guys because it makes it more about you guys and not us just being like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But I hope that you liked this and let us know other hard conversations that you want us to have here on the pod.
Agreed. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't already. Follow us on Instagram, Pretty Basic Official, and we will catch you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.